Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining this My World presentation of the Peace with Justice Award to its fourth recipient, the Conflict Resolution Network in Australia, to be received by its director, Helena Cornelius, and in memory of her mother, Stella, with whom that network was co-founded way back in 1986. My name is Jeanette Ryken. I will be your MC for this presentation. I'm here in Ottawa, capital of Canada, and I'm the executive assistant of the Alternative Dispute Resolution here in Canada. This presentation is being taped from Ottawa this evening at 7:30 p.m., Monday, August 12th, 2024. Today is also the UN International Youth Day, which falls in line with the My World NGO motto, which is children helping other children pick up the pieces. There will be no interactions with the viewers, so if everyone could please just mute their microphones, and the presentation will be posted to the My World YouTube channel. Our agenda tonight, what I'll do is I'll introduce a few of the speakers, then we'll close the award presentation with a must-see 3-minute video by our creative IT manager, Desmond Silva. And on this note, I am pleased to introduce our first speaker, Ernest Tannis, also known as Ernie, the former attorney, co-founder of My World with Emil Canham, created in 1985 as a Canadian not-for-profit organization. Ernie has practiced law for about 50 years and is the president of the Alternative Dispute Resolution Centre Canada. I've been working with Ernie since 2016 on various projects. So here is Ernie.
Thank you very much, Jeanette. Welcome, everyone. I was told I had a few minutes, and I've learned if you can't strike oil with the time you're given, stop boring. There's absolutely nothing boring about this subject. It is the key subject in the world is conflict resolution, and we're doing it for the next generations. I'm going to take this time to do a quick historical view about how things evolved and then some of the key players that were involved, how we came about. 1985, I decided, my heart told me that there was no justice in the legal system. I'd been practicing law since 1976, and I wanted to find out what Jesus meant by mediation. So I left the lucrative law practice, and I didn't know where it would take me, but I knew I had to do something. At the same year, Emil Canham, I never met before, he left the lucrative law practice in Los Angeles, came to Ottawa, and asked a Lebanese guy, he was born in Lebanon, my father's from Lebanon, and he said, you know a lawyer that would help pro bono to set up a group I want to call My World? And that's how we met. It was a coincidence, or Melinda, my friend, would say a God incident. And then we started doing some work together, and we got incorporated. And then over the years, we started doing many, many projects in different parts of the world. One of them was in 1987. We set up the Canada's first peer mediation program for high school in Canada and elementary school. And we had other groups involved in Ottawa, and we did that training in Woodruff with the students, and they helped resolve a dispute that year, 1987. At the same week, there was a big fight in a school in Halifax with police and violence, and here it was settled through the peer mediation program. The students told us over the years we met them that training helped them in their life, with their marriages, with their business, with their relationships. So you know that when we do this with the young people, it's for good. In 1988, I went to the New York City for the UN peacemaking group with all the non-government associations. There was over 400 associations, over 4,000 people. And that's where I met Stella and her daughter, Helena Cornelius, in New York City. And we'll remember, which I remembered because it's in my book, ADR That Works, that we talked with Robin Ludwig, who is the director of peacemaking. And Stella and Helena and I had this idea for an international project, something like we're proposing on conflict resolution community days. But she told us specifically, your idea is a good one. However, and she said that it will not prevent not happen with corporations. So it only happen from the outside. It's got to be driven by the general public. That is what we're doing. But that was in 1988. And in 1989, a book, Alternative Dispute Resolution Networks, came out, a paper I'd written, and it was just around that time I was getting involved with other projects, and met Tom Colosi, was a leader in the United States, and Tom Colosi led me to be introduced to Ambassador John MacDonald. And Ambassador MacDonald and his wife, Crystal, who you'll hear from later, became very, very involved in our project. And then in 1990, there was worldwide attention in Akwesasne, Mohawk Territory, in Oka. It got worldwide attention, this conflict in Canada. And with the Canadian Institute for Conflict Resolution, of which I was executive director, I got involved and I learned about Native wisdom. And through their mediation center, involving the young people in all generations, and they taught that everything you say, do, and think now affects the next 7 generations. The 7th generation you'll never live to see. It was such wisdom, and I was very, very emboldened by that experience, and I worked with a lot of Native groups in different parts of North America and elsewhere. Then after 1990, we moved on to many, many other things, but to go to the present situation, last year, after there was 3 recipients, and I always checked with the prior recipients, and I phoned Crystal MacDonald, whose husband was the 2nd recipient. The 3rd one was a Native leader, posthumously, and the 1st one was Dr. Napke, also from Lebanon. But I suggested the Conflict Resolution Network for a lot of reasons, and she's been very helpful right from last April when we started this. And Helena and I started talking a year ago. So after all these months, over a year and a half, almost a half later, here we are today. And it's really been a wonderful experience to be here together to move on and make this the next step of a longer journey. So thank you very much for listening to that short history.
Thank you. Thank you, Ernie, for that summary. That was very good. I would also, at this time, like to say hello to Crystal MacDonald and to thank her for the congratulatory email that she did send to Helena. And I'm honored to read it on your behalf, Crystal. So here's what Crystal writes. I am delighted to have been invited to attend the celebration to honor you and your late mother, Dr. Stella Cornelius, on the UN International Day for Youth, August 13, 2024 in Sydney, and August 12, 2024 in Ottawa and Washington, D.C., for your over half a century tireless commitment and dedication to peace and conflict resolution, nationally and globally. Thousands of miles separate us, and yet there are so many bonds that bind us. It was in the mid-1980s that your mother and my husband began connecting with academia. She with Macquarie University, John W. MacDonald with professors from various disciplines at George Mason University Center for Peace and Conflict Resolution, now the Carter School for Peace and Conflict Resolution. Both your mother and John were recognized by the United Nations as messengers of peace. John for IPI in 1990, your mother in 2010. Both had a connection to Dr. Noah Zanoli Davenport, who worked with John when he was president of the Iowa Peace Institute, the IPI, which was the end of 1989 to early 1992. In 1999, John was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Noah established with others the 1,000 Women for Peace initiative for the Nobel Peace Prize 2010. And your mother was one of the nominees. I am sure there are many other links. I am delighted that Ernest Tannis has selected you and your organization, CRN, as the recipient of the My World Peace with Justice Award, another bond. As you know, John was the 2nd recipient in 2017 of this award, created in honor of Emil Canham, who conceived My World in 1985. Congratulations. Now I will think of you each time when I look at John's award, knowing there is you on the other side of the world. Best wishes, Helena. So that was very beautifully written, Crystal. It was written from the heart. I thank you for that. And well, without further ado, my world is honored to now present the Peace with Justice Award to Helena Cornelius, Director of the Conflict Resolution Network in Australia. Helena?
Thank you. Yes, that's me with the award. And there you can see it there. It's very handsome. And it's come in the post. And I'm holding it in my hand. And I didn't dare put it up until the award ceremony was actually going to happen. So there it is. Any time that you want to stop sharing your screen and I can see my people again, that would be gorgeous. Hello, everybody. So here I have the award. As I say, very, very handsome indeed. And I'm going to put it out of the way. I tend to gesture a lot when I'm talking. The last time I was talking on Zoom, I knocked over my cup of tea. I do not want to knock over my award, so excuse me 1 second while I put it well out of the way. I'm incredibly honoured to receive it, particularly so, Crystal, having read only this morning the bio of John MacDonald and his wonderful work both as ambassador and professor, and seeing what incredible work he was doing for international peace initiatives. And, I feel very humbled to follow even remotely in his footsteps. But the work that we have done at Conflict Resolution Network, it does also very deeply please my heart. We have always had a passion for the possible. And for us in Australia, rather remote, it seemed that we could only have a very small influence on international affairs. But we could have a big influence on what people understood about the skills of conflict resolution. One of the things that Stella, my mother, and I, who started Conflict Resolution Network way back in '86, really felt was important was that it was very difficult to ask your countries, presidents, prime ministers, etc., to use the skills of conflict resolution in their international affairs if the people themselves didn't know what they were, weren't practicing them, and were in very conflictual and polarity-driven situations themselves. So our purpose has always been at Conflict Resolution Network to develop, to teach, and to implement the skills of conflict resolution so that it would happen from a grassroots level. So what I thought I'd use my few minutes today to talk about, hopefully, is a bit of inspiration for you with some of the things that we have done working from grassroots level as we had to do. We were just, two women who lived across the road from each other in Chatswood West, in Sydney, New South Wales, way down in Australia. What could we do for international peace? So Stella was a wonderful networker, and she would network with everybody in the peace movement, both in Australia and overseas. And some of those wonderful people are actually on our video today. Maria and Richard Maguire are here. Monica Gader is here. Thank you, Monica. And Shoshana Fair, who I have worked closely with over the whole of our, is it 40 years that we've been working together, Shosh? Is here too. So we have worked, well, really tirelessly to spread these skills. And I am very committed to the process of building conflict resolving community. One of the things that Shoshana is working on right now is 5-session Zooms that teach people how to engage in challenging conversations, possibly with people who hold very opposing views to you. So that's one of our latest additions. Working backwards a little bit, we recently created a podcast series where people can tune in to 14, well, half to 3/4 of an hour sessions, teaching the skills of conflict resolution. We've worked on trainers' manuals that will work in all sorts of situations because they are very generic. In other words, the audience participant brings their personal issues into the workshop situation, and that's how they create the material on which the conflict resolution is being taught. We have worked with wonderful liaison through quite a number of the universities in Australia, and that has been very helpful for getting the skills not only at the personal level, but heading them into an academic process as well. So there were places like Macquarie University that Jeanette had mentioned, and we're very grateful to Dr. Carolyn Ralston there, who was one of the lecturers in politics and history, and she pushed to have a conflict resolution program at Macquarie University, and Vice-Chancellor Di Yerbury was right behind it as well. And for many years we ran, well, not we personally, but there was a conflict resolution department at Macquarie University. There's still one running at Charles Sturt University. David Arder had initiated that, and we had close liaison over many years with David. Sydney University has a program which has had many iterations, including being a centre for peace and conflict resolution. And Jake Lynch and Linda Blanchard and Wendy Lambourne have all done incredible things with that. It's been wonderful to be a network more than a close-knit organisation, so that we can, as it were, take credit for work that so many wonderful people have done. And I think it was Stella's original concept that this loose association across a very wide variety of people was the best way for us to travel. We tried some other ways. We tried doing franchising, and early in our work at a conflict resolution network in the early 90s, we had in-house training as one franchise. We were doing public workshops. We had Stuart Walker teaching. We had Rosalind Lambert organising. We did work in disadvantaged communities, and were able to get some government funding for that. And Robin Gaspari was a wonderful mover and shaker of all of that, and got VTAB accreditation for the courses that she was running. We had resources available that Clare Boone would run for us, and Deborah Stevenson was running our library at that time. All of these things were incredibly helpful, but somehow or other the more limiting process of keeping it within an organisation didn't quite work. And what we wanted to do was to spread it wide. So the use of trainers' manuals where people could learn the skills themselves was really our very best answer. So Shoshana had done no end of training. We had the skills to hand. We knew they worked in groups. We created manuals that were able to go broadly and widely out into the community. Shoshana and I wrote books. We wrote Everyone Can Win, which is still in print. It's now an e-learning book. It was translated into, I think, 7 or 8 languages. A wonderful outcome. And I've written a tremendous amount of other material too, all of which I thoroughly recommend you head into our website and have a look at, because there could be something that's inspiring for you. One of the areas that's been most inspiring is working with children. And we started with Christina McMahon, who was writing an in-house manual for trainers, for teachers, on how to teach conflict resolution. And then I think it was about 2003, Maureen Lynch and Clare Heaton wrote the most amazing manual, taking our 12 skills and creating exercises that made them available to children. So it was her original, or their original book. It's out of print, bugger. However, we now have been able to add extra chapters to it, particularly on cyberbullying, and put it up on our website, and Maureen and Clare have made that freely available. They'll be pleased to know that I looked up, they always love to know how many people have downloaded it recently. I looked it up, and this year we've had 220 downloads of that manual, which is pretty damn terrific. Let's hope every one of them is being really well used, teaching children and spreading those skills to the younger generation, because they're our future. And they're who really need training. Maureen and Clare, can I hand the microphone over to you to tell us a little more about that manual and all the wonderful work you've done through many years?
Thank you, Helena. So Clare and I are teachers, and we trained with the Conflict Resolution Network. And we thought what wonderful, wonderful life skills, and how great it would be if children learnt these skills. And so Helena and her mother Stella were mightily encouraging. They gave us their blessings to adapt these 12 skills for students. And Bruce Reniker said to us, come and trial it at our school. And so over 9 years, we worked with teachers, students, parents, undergraduate students, and we taught peer mediation. We developed that all of those 9 sessions into the manual that Helena just held up. And the activities were constantly evaluated by us and by the students, and there was an input from the teachers. And then the manual was published by Pearson Education. And as Helena said, it's been updated and it's freely available. 419 pages of good stuff called We Can Work It Out. Stella wrote the foreword for the manual, Managing Conflict with Confidence, and I'll quote these words. Conflict resolution skills are the basic skills required for building the truly civilized society. The skills needed by diplomats are the very same skills that children can use to settle their playground disputes, unquote. So over 9 weeks, we would go to that same school and we'd teach a new skill a week. We'd revise the previous skills. The classroom teachers always accompanied their students, and they were marvellous in revisiting all of those skills. On the first session, we established what is conflict. And so we concluded that conflict can be as small as, who sits in the front seat of the car, and can be as big as a full-scale war. So students were given a handout to identify how they now manage their conflicts, and there were pictures that they circled. Did they ignore their conflicts? Did they cry? Did they run away? Did they hide? Did they use abusive language? And did they fight physically? And then they filled in, who do they have their conflicts with? What are they about? And how would they hope that the course would help them? And then in the last session, in session 9, they were given back a handout that had the same pictures, and they were able to reflect on how they now manage their conflicts, who are you having your conflicts with, and to circle all of the skills that you found most helpful. And teachers reported significant, notable changes in students. Things like most students now see that there are two sides to a story. They understand that people have different perceptions to events and circumstances. There's less aggression on the playground. The students that were appearing in detention are less. Children are calmer. And one teacher said, look, I now have language for conflict resolution. I have a framework that I can build on. And my whole professional life has been enhanced in my personal life. But I think one of the most heartwarming things that we heard was from a 10-year-old girl who said, she was delightfully optimistic. She said, we might go into war. If we use conflict resolution skills to work it out and figure it out, we might save the world.
Thanks, Maureen. We've tried to make this interesting, relevant, and fun for kids, because we think if they're having fun and doing lots and lots of activities, they're going to learn more. And I've got a few more quotes from the kids too. One boy who had real anger problems, he said, "The fuse is longer, the flame burns slower, and it's harder to light." Then also, this little girl said, this course helped me dealing with my older brother and getting a win-win. It also helped me work out conflicts step by step. And another said, it helped me not to get into a conflict or fight, to keep my cool and listen to what the other person has to say first. I've learned to be extra, 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 extra calm. So we hope that this will go out into the world and make lots and lots of other kids extra, 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 extra calm. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all so very much, Helena Cornelius, and your two colleagues, Clare Heaton and Maureen Lynch. Ernie, did you have any further comments to make on what?
Well, I just want to say how inspiring it is. I think we're going to revive this whole idea of the next generation. And I'm glad to see that Ivan Roy has joined us. He was vice principal of Woodruff High School back in the late 80s. I mentioned that was a leading project for peer mediation, and he's been very, very much committed. He retired early to do this across Canada, and he's still talking with us. And so we're going to bring in all our generations for the next generations. So this has been really inspiring with the three of us, new colleagues from Australia. I think we're going to plant a seed for community-based conflict resolution days and bring in all this wisdom and interest and thinking. It's very, very exciting, and thank you very much for re-inspiring this idea.
And I say one more thing too.
Yes.
If anybody's interested in downloading Clare and Maureen's manual, just this morning, Desmond put up a link on the My World website within the recipients' awards that links to the book, which is called We Can Work It Out. So people who are interested in taking Ernie's idea of building conflict-resolving communities and involving young people could have a look at that manual very easily. It's a free download.
Fantastic.
Wonderful. Yeah. Okay. So now, as promised, please enjoy and be inspired by the following video. I believe Desmond will put it on.
Conflict, war, suffering, death, education, diplomacy, resolution, peace. Throughout all of history, people have faced conflicts both great and small. Some chose violence as their means, while others chose a more peaceful approach. Among those who peacefully used their voices or the written word to resolve conflict, there were those who were successful in their cause, even if it meant giving up their own lives. But there is one thing that can help prevent further conflict, a tool so powerful that it can be used to overcome even the strongest of foes. A tool that, once obtained, cannot be taken away from the person who obtained it. Knowledge. Education leads to knowledge. Knowledge leads to skills. And when it comes to conflict resolution, the education and passing down of skills to the next generations is paramount. It is said that those who do not learn from history are bound to repeat it. Whether we consider the Battle of Stalingrad in Russia during World War II, or the Battle of Elephant Pass during the Sri Lankan Civil War, the same principle of learning from history that apply in battles can also be applied in peaceful conflict resolution. Ernest George Tannis is no stranger to conflict. Since 1974, when he graduated from law school, he continually focused on conflict resolution. From civil court cases to civil wars, Ernest has both experienced and aided the resolution of various conflicts by peaceful means. He went on to co-found organizations and foundations, such as REACH in 1981, which reaches out to help persons with disabilities, and the Canadian Institute for Conflict Resolution in 1988. He also helped people create dozens of non-profit organizations and charities. Ernest has written several books over the years, with his latest one releasing in late 2024 entitled, Is Everyone at the Table? In 1985, Ernest and Emil Cannon co-founded My World, a non-profit organization focusing on communication, problem-solving, and conflict resolution skills for the next generations. Its model is children helping other children pick up the pieces. Since its inception, My World has aided and completed several projects in different parts of the world. It is now proposing a project to have cities around the world host annual conflict resolution community days based on proven documented models, adapted to each culture and its ancestry. A year after the passing of Emil, the My World Peace with Justice Award was created in his honor in 2016. Its 2024 recipient is the Conflict Resolution Network in Australia. Many people who have worked with Mr. Tannis have been empowered by his work to do better problem solving. Mo Royer, who ran the mediation program in penitentiaries at Corrections Canada, stated that Ernie has helped countless people with his work at My World. As new generations are born, the work for educating the youth of our world in conflict resolution continues. Through your donation, you can help My World continue its work to educate these next generations in effective conflict resolution. Make your donation to My World today, and let's help build a better tomorrow.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Everyone is encouraged to stay in touch and continue to build together with the next generations a more peaceful and fulfilling world with better communications, problem solving, and conflict resolution skills with empathy. So in closing, My World, Ernie and I, we thank you all for attending and wish you a peaceful night and a peaceful life. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good morning to us.
Yes, good morning, Australia.
Good morning to everybody else.
Good morning in Sri Lanka too.
Yes, yes.
Thank you all.